minute, Greg had to restart his computer. He was having a glitch and couldn't get his video to launch, so hopefully that will start working here in just a moment. And so Greg and I were speaking earlier today. He's got some great and important information regarding the whole global thing as it relates to oil, Russia, the COVID virus, etc., and what has been going on recently, sort of behind the scenes, and things that have not been necessarily spoken of in the public or by the media. So it'll be good to get that going. So anyway, sorry we're starting late here. We should be kicking off here in just a minute. And it shows that we're streaming live everywhere, I hope. So Greg just left to reboot, and like I said, he should be here any second. So just waiting for him, and fumbling around here in the meantime as well. Sorry about that. Anyway, we got 28 people here. Getting things set up here still. Sorry about this. So anyway, I can talk to the audience here while Greg gets his computer back up. I'm not sure why it's taking him so long to get rebooted here, but he should be back any second. So anyways, people saying, wow, I've been really wanting to see what you have to say about this. Yeah, we're live. Yes, we are. So looks like YouTube popped up a coronavirus disease CDC link to the bottom of my video. How thoughtful of them for doing that without even being asked. Please hit the like and subscribe as well. Really appreciate it. And, geez, boy, I didn't think Greg would take this long to get his system rebooted here. So anyway, anyone have any questions while we're waiting for Greg to get back in here? Please keep it on topic, folks. Matthew North said not to trust you anymore. Yeah, we got the trolls in here already, the GDL idiot trolls. That must be Greg, unable to... I don't know why he's calling on that line. Dude, you're calling the wrong line, and I'm live waiting for you. Okay, just get in there, dude. Just get in there. All right. All right. All right, sorry about that. Greg says he's having to do updates. So, yep, you have to do updates regularly or things won't work. I don't give a crap what Matthew North says. He's putting out disinformation, and we did 24 shows exposing all of that. And if you're going to repeat such stupidity from him and Jesse Spotswood Moorfield and the GDL, then go bye-bye. Does anybody have anything intelligent to say? Yes, of course it's a troll. He's got one subscriber channel, typical troll channel. It's in a new channel, blocked. Bye-bye. We like intelligent people to contribute to the comment section. Obviously, there's always your idiot GDL people who can't fact-check anything and repeat stupid stuff. So good on you guys. 24 shows showing the primary citations on screen that showed that Matthew North and Jesse Spotswood Moorfield and the GDL were all frauds. All the primary citations by the thousands shown on screen. So there's just no excuse to still be spreading that crap. So we have to question your capacity to think. And what are we doing here? So 10 minutes, 11 minutes in, and Greg still doesn't have his computer up. So the GDL, what is the GDL? They're a neo-Nazi group that spreads fake information. They're in cahoots with Islamists to spread all kinds of crap. Yeah, and how is everybody's lockdown going? How are you guys all doing out there? Hopefully you all bought your food and sardines and rice and what else? Ammo, toilet paper. You know, for those of you who don't know, you can always use an old rag to wipe your butt instead of hoarding and fighting over toilet paper in the grocery stores. People did that for many hundreds of years. It's all right. You can wash it. It works. What's it stand for, though? GDL stands for Goyim Defense League. And again, it's a neo-Nazi group. We've done plenty of shows on that. People are losing their minds, they say in the chat. Still waiting for Greg here. Anybody else have any good questions? Been reading the Gospel of Matthew. That's a good book. I'm not locked down in Kentucky yet. Good. Yeah, you know, we've hardly had much out here in the Southern California mountains, and yet, you know, they want the whole state on lockdown. Stage 1 here in Australia. Shops are closing down. Can still buy takeaway, same here. Ready for 4 months, got a generator and a new Mossberg. Good job. Hopefully you got plenty of ammo for the Mossberg. And lockdown from the common cold, yep. The issue is it hits elderly a lot harder. I've been speaking to some doctors about it. Who's winning, the good guys or bad guys? Probably things are going to be very different. Is adrenochrome all a conspiracy or what? Adrenochrome, for those of you who don't know, is found in the blood, and people like to drink it. It's pretty sick stuff. I've done shows on it in the past. I don't think it's a conspiracy. Common cold danger. Common cold, the danger is real. Well, 20 to 70,000 people die a year from the common flu in the United States alone. And, you know, so who knows? You know, the issue is this really attacks elderly people and people with lung issues. But let's see. Plenty of ammo. Trying to get a copy of the Scriptures Bible version. Are you familiar with it? Don't think I have that one. I have like 70 Bibles. Let's see. We've been given the chance to stock up in supplies and wait out for 4 weeks coming. Yep. And, you know, I've been telling people to prepare for years for this. I've been telling people to buy a gun and get ammo and everything for many, many years. So not sure why people are so behind on that at this point. It's kind of weird when you see people like trying to catch up when you've warned them. Like we even said in the Circling the Wagons episode, like in October, that we were going to start doing more defense shows and prep shows and things like that and trying to gear that direction, which I haven't been able to do much of. But that was why, is because I've been seeing this on the horizon for years. Bishop Robert Barron. I don't know. Look him up. Use the trivium. What's your take on the agenda behind the crisis? Seems like they're killing many birds with this one. Yes, I think that's probably correct. Mind control 137. Toilet paper 137. I'm not into gematria much. Let's see. Just wondering, people are all over the place. Are you a supporter of Israel and Zionism? That's Terrence McKenna troll, obviously a moron who still doesn't realize that Terrence McKenna was CIA, and he confuses being against Islam and exposing Islam and all the fake Talmud quotes as being pro-Israel and Zionism. Nope, sorry, not. But you are stupid. I will say that for sure. So once you realize that Terrence McKenna was a CIA agent and you're promoting crap and MK Ultra, then maybe you can begin to have a clue. And it's not Israel behind all of this stuff. So you are just dumb. And let's see. Someone asked about natural antivirals, colloidal silver works, zinc, lozenges. You can also gargle with vinegar and lemon juice, etc. What's a good sign to bug out if it comes? Well, hopefully you've already gotten all your bug out stuff ready. You know, hopefully people have at least a few hundred rounds of ammo and a survival rifle like a 22, like a Ruger 1022 takedown, and some sort of handgun. Shotgun for food. You can always shoot deer with a 22 if you have to, but something that can take large game, small game, something to protect yourself and your family. Well, who knows where Greg went? We are well into this. Here he is. Yay! Greg is back, finally. Hopefully he gets his camera up and running here. Greg, I don't hear you yet. Are you there? Well, I don't hear his audio yet. He's got to click the audio and video buttons on the bottom left of his screen there so he can get that turned on. Greg, audio on, video on. Yeah, they gathered the guns in New Zealand over the past 12 months, and people were dumb enough to give them up too. That wasn't foreseen. So, Greg, there's...
Okay.
I hear you now, Greg. You need to get your video on as well.
It's still telling me that I'm not able to use the video. I don't know why.
All right. Well, let's just go on here. I've already been live for like 12, 15 minutes waiting for you here, so...
I'm going to keep working on this, so...
Well, just let's... Okay, well, while you're working on that, let's just talk, because we've got 100 people in here watching, and let's go.
Okay. All right, so everybody ready for a very interesting hypothesis and theory?
Well, hopefully so.
And you have been talking about the coronavirus, I'm sure?
Well, talking about it some, and I've been reading comments from the audience, and of course you got your stupid trolls. Oh, you support Israel and Zionism because we came out exposing the fake GDL and how Islam was behind so much stuff, and did 24 shows, 50 hours of primary citations, and you still have these sub-90 IQ morons and trolls out there.
Some people are just afraid to, they marry into an idea and they can never come off of it.
Right, and it's like they're married into the Adam Green and ugly liar stuff, and they can't deviate from that narrative once and we showed, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 citations on screen over 50 hours and 24 shows, and people still think that it's the Jews behind everything. And but if you question that narrative, you must be a Zionist and pro-Israel. It's like,
what's wrong with listening to all different ideas and then making up your own mind? Don't shut out different ideas.
Well, people, you got to realize people that post stuff like that don't have the intellectual capacity to think things through, much less to use the trivium,
Mm-hmm. But I have to, I have to go back and listen to some of your programs on that. I'm very interested, and I've just been really busy with, with my work.
But, yeah, it's a lot to digest. We did oh my God, I just touched my face, folks. But, once you go through it all, you realize that everything that they're accusing of the Jews is found openly and easily in Islamic texts. Can you shut your phone off there, please?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Okay.
And and I've shown this document on screen a number of times. Boy, just turn off that whatever else is going on there.
Yeah,
I've
that's my
shown
phone.
these. Turn off the volume entirely, please.
No,
And
I'm shutting the phone down, so it
I've
won't bother.
I've shown this stuff quite a number of times. Now, where the heck is it? Let me see. Okay, so and then we can get started with this, and hopefully one of these days you get your video working.
Oh my God, that was a Microsoft update that caused that
Well,
problem.
that's
And now
what
the
you
video.
gotta do that stuff ahead of time. You had an hour, so. But I've exposed how all these Talmud quotes are fake. Again, people like to blame the Jews, and if you actually fact check all of the fake, turn off the volume, please. If you actually fact check all of the fake KKK and neo-Nazi quotes and quotes that are put out by the Islamists, if you actually fact check them, that must mean that you're an pro-Israel Zionist because you were smart enough to open a book and see if what they were saying was truthful or lies or not. So we have all of these different quotes that people put out, and of course they're too stupid to fact check them themselves. And if you fact check them, well, you're automatically the enemy because you dared to prove their lies false, which of course that's what Christians are supposed to do, is tell the truth and not lie. That's what following Logos, as you know, Greg, is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just scrolling through, people can pause their screen later and read some of these, but only one out of about 70 of these ended up being, let me see, true. So this one is the only one that ended up being true. Shabbat 17 or 116a, Jews must destroy the books of the Christians, i.e. the New Testament, see footnote 6. So out of their 70 quotes, their 1.6% accuracy was this one right here. And never mind that Christians say that about Jews, and Muslims say that about Christians and Jews, but people only flip out if one of these is actually true. But, never mind, they say the Talmud is the most evil book ever written and all of this other stuff. Can you please stop with the freaking gematria in the chat? But anyway, you get one that's true out of all of these others that are false, and 98.4% of the quotes are fake, totally
Mm-hmm.
made up, and you get these idiots that constantly regurgitate that stuff, and I must be a Zionist Islam or a Israeli shill if I look up the quotes and fact check them in the Talmud. By golly, it's like you got to
Well, let me
have
ask you. Let me question. I'm
you
not
got to
being
have
critical
some
of you.
low IQ there. Go ahead.
How do you get to fact check the Talmud when the Talmud is restricted to Jews only?
It's found online, and it's not. It's been published in books for years, and if you don't like the translation, you can use your Chrome browser and right-click the Hebrew, and it says translate, and you can translate it and compare the translation side by side.
So what they're saying is that, because I've heard stories.
Well,
Just
they
hear me
say
out.
there's a hidden Talmud, but of course they never presented any evidence of the hidden Talmud, and the onus of proof rests on them. Otherwise, it's arguing the arbitrary. But, it's a hidden Talmud that they keep, buried, 116 floors, below the street that they only bring out on, on Friday the 13th under a full moon and all of this kind of stuff. And there's
Mm-hmm.
never any evidence for it, and the we checked like several different Talmudic translations, and they all checked out. But here's the thing: is all of those claims we were able to easily find in the, and I'm pulling that up again, in the Islamic texts, and nobody complains about that. So compare Islam on the bottom of every page. I have comparing Islam here. And those are easily found and true with Islam, but none of those idiots get upset about them being in Islam. And never mind, there's 14.8 million Jews in the world and 1.8 billion Muslims.
Mm.
So, we're supposed to ignore the Muslims that openly state all of this stuff. And the Quran or the Sharia law says that they have to kill all kafir non believers. They absolutely have to. You have to either subjugate all kafir or murder them. And they openly state this stuff in all of their texts. I'm showing the actual Islamic texts on screen here. That stuff is openly, easily found, and nobody gets upset about it. But they get upset about 1.8% accuracy with the Talmud. Anyway, that's my rant. We're going way off topic because of your 20-minute delay there. So,
yeah, my fault. I'm sorry. A Microsoft update on my computer bogs it down, causes a big mess. Anyway, apologize for that delay. But
did you check your bottom left for the up arrow by the camera and see if you can select your camera there yet?
I have been looking. It might be just something in this. I don't know what it was. I just used the camera the other day.
It was probably a different program, but yeah, I mean, if there's an update, you got to keep your computer updated. So that will happen.
It was mandatory, and I hadn't shut it down today, so it must have been an update that hit last night, and that's why it bogged down. But it's still not let me turn the camera on. So anyway, let's just start. Let's start with
let's
the
go
thesis,
for it.
and we'll have a conversation about this. So we all know what's going on. Everything's, the economy is being collapsed. Things are being shut down. This is a super serious. The question is as to why did this all come about? In our conversation we had earlier, I believe this is a long-term plan, something that's been in the works for more than 40 years. And it's not a conspiracy, guys. It's the biggest theft in human history, because they have known since the 1970s that the largest accumulated wealth with the baby boomers, was going to accumulate to this point where it is now. All the pension funds and 401ks. You're talking about in front end, back end fees, plus the actual transfer, because when the stock market goes down and when you hear that people lost their money, that money was not lost. That money was just transferred to another person. That's all this is. Down markets are the biggest transfer of wealth. People get very rich when the market crashes because they know how to play the position. So they've been carefully strategizing this because there were trillions of dollars collectively, plus all the fees, between all the pension funds and the 401ks. And they knew they had to crash this before the meat of the baby boomers started to retire. And that's now. So my personal opinion about this is, when you see something that happened like in Wuhan, this was part of a strategy that involves thousands of people, politicians, Wall Street bankers, all the top brokerage firms, all the broker dealers, all the major corporations that were heavily involved in this, everybody getting their taste. I've heard some estimates from like Rob Kiyosaki that this number could be as high as $40 trillion. So we're not talking about any small sum of money. So this was too big. This was too big of a honeypot for these Wall Street crooks, and that's what they are, to just let go. They were going to try and get their hands on it. So they crafted a scheme that took 30 years to progress. And part of that was to create an incident that would lead to a stock market decline. Now, for years, Wall Street has been selling pension funds and 401ks, corporate equities, and corporate bonds. Everybody should know that. Anybody who's got a 401k, if you've seen what's happened to it in the last 3 weeks, you've probably lost about 60% of its value. Now, what happens with these 401ks and these pension funds, as soon as they start holding bad paper, they try to sell it as quickly as possible. And who buys that paper? The very broker dealers that sold it to them to begin with. So take a pension fund that buys, let's say, a corporate bond for, let's say, Boeing for $100 million, right? That's basically, it's a loan that is given to Boeing. Boeing then takes that money and buys back their shares, and their executives and their board of directors and all their key people sell their stock options they receive as part of their compensation package into the rise. So they start taking all this money and pocketing billions of dollars, selling off their personal shares. And small investors, retail investors, see the rise in the stock price and say, wow, this is a great thing. It's a great company. It's Boeing, for God's sake. They're like the biggest and the best airplane manufacturer in the world. They make all the jets. It's a great investment. So they start piling in because the stock's going up. In the meantime, because the company is um, taking out debt to do it, the debts are rising more than the profits are rising. Okay. I'm getting a little bit off track. But let's go back to the broker dealers. The broker dealers now take the corporate bonds, right? And the bonds that have been issued, the corporate bonds from Boeing, and they sell them to the pension funds in the 401k to say, look, a this is a great, it's a 100-year-old company. Your guaranteed returns. You need safety and security. You can't do any better than having Boeing bonds in your portfolio. So they buy them, and they become the holder of the debts from Boeing. So they're expecting a return. So you get a crash like this, like we've had, and all of a sudden, boom, Boeing goes down 60%. So the brokerage firm comes in and buys that paper back from the pension funds for 30 cents on the dollar. Now Trump comes and says, we're going to bail out all the corporations. Okay. They bail out Boeing, and what are they doing? They're bailing out the bondholders for 100 cents on the dollar. But guess who owns it now? The broker dealer. They paid 30 cents. They bought it from the pension fund or the 401k. So they just made a 300% profit on that overnight. And it's all part of a scam. So this is what they do all the time. This is a wash, rinse, repeat thing. They try to pull this off every 10 to 20 years. But this was the mother of all like fleecing. But they had to come up with the perfect scenario, and that's where the Wuhan virus comes in. Now, whether it was, you and I have talked about this, I think it was a biological. Okay.
Biological warfare.
Biological weapon that was released in China. And they probably knew, as we discussed, that these biological weapons have a very short shelf life when it comes to their chaos, death, and destruction. They probably know this, but they promote to us that these bioweapons will wipe out half the planet. They're more like War of the Worlds. When the Martians come and attack Earth, they cause chaos and death for a couple of days or a week, and they succumb to the microorganisms on Earth, and it kills them. These are man-made. These scientists that put these chemical warfare agents together, or biological warfare agents together, are just humans. When they create something and introduce it into the environment, the natural God-created microorganism out there in the environment recognize it and begin to attack it, break it down. That's why there are not 1 billion people in China today with the coronavirus. Because think about it. When this thing started, they said, what did they say? The spread ratio was as high as one person gets it, they're going to spread it to 10 people. And just run the numbers on that. If that held out true, the entire planet would have the coronavirus right now. But then they revised it and said, no, one person will give it to 4. Well, even if you run the numbers then, if this thing started in January in Wuhan, why don't 1 billion people in China have the coronavirus right now? And that's something you'll never hear anybody say in the media. Nobody will ask any of the politicians. Nobody will say anything to any of these people talking about, the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, that this coronavirus is going to kill half the population of the world. It's like, how can you substantiate that when out of a population of 7 billion people, less than 150,000 people have contracted it and only a couple of thousand have died? You don't shut down the global economy for something like that. What you would do is you would say, look, folks, this is something that attacks your immune system. So why don't you stop eating Burger King and McDonald's for a couple of weeks, concentrate on some fresh vegetables and home cooked meals, right? Stay away from, abusing your body, build your immune system, take some supplements, and you got a really good chance that you're going to survive this, even if you are 70 years old. Okay. So I smelt a rat right from the beginning. And I was like with everybody else. Back in January, they were saying in 2 weeks, this is going to go parabolic and it's going to spread. Well, guess what? 2 weeks came and then they said, oh, no, it's going to be another 2 weeks. And then it's another 2 weeks. And now this week they're saying, no, no, no. In 2 weeks, 40 million Americans are going to have this. Like, okay. But that being said, a very interesting thing happened in this because this plays a major role in this finance heist, this financial crime that took place. They had to start shutting things down, or at least talk about quarantining and shutting things down. And indeed, they had to do it. And I think the fly in the ointment or the monkey in the wrench was that Vladimir Putin, a man who certainly has a lot to get back for, and I'm talking about his bloodline. He's a Russian. And the Russian people have been put through hell. Going all the way back to the Russian Revolution and the Bolsheviks. They had to endure tens of millions of murders, rapes, and suffering. And this is just the people, and who was responsible for that? Who financed the Bolsheviks? Wall Street. Everybody knows that. At least everybody should have heard that. So there's a collusion between these guys and big finance, particularly in New York, London, Tel Aviv, and in Basel, Switzerland. Now, whether they're Jews or not, whatever, I don't want to get into that. This is a cabal, and it's a criminal cabal. It's organized crime. So Putin...
There's probably people of every race involved in it, I would bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's
but
involved.
Only the Jews will get the blame. And we have a bunch of idiots going on and on and on about gematria in the chat. This show is not about gematria. Please keep it on topic. I will ban all of you who keep talking about it. Why don't you listen to what Greg is saying rather than going on about gematria? Thank you very much.
It's about organized crime. But what happened is Vladimir Putin saw an opportunity and he seized upon it. Right when they were talking about shutting things down, in fact, 2 days after Donald Trump said that they would bail out all of the corporations, because remember, by this time, the stock market was starting to drop. In fact, it had lost almost 20% by that point. We had just gone through the one day until one day last week, the stock market had dropped more in one day than any single day in history. So there was real discussion, but this was part of the plan. At this point, pension funds and 401ks were panicking, and they were calling their broker dealers saying, we got to sell this. Don't worry, we'll do the best we can. But the best we can do is give you 30 cents on the dollar. Fine, sold, boom, transfer. And these guys were just sitting back and smiling and saying, all we have to do is wait. Because when this is over, Donald Trump is going to bail out those corporations. And when he does, the front end of the criminals, the CEOs, and mind you, 300 of them retired from their positions prior to these events taking place, right? Since the beginning of the year. Mike Eisner with Disney. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. Bill Gates retired all of his seats and positions. just to name a couple, but you can look them up. There's over 300 of them. So I think what happened was they were all benefiting from the stock buyback, which is the front end of this scam. Now the broker dealers were going to get there by acquiring the asset at a deeply discounted price, and then the government coming in and buying them back or making the corporations whole at 100 cents on the dollar. They stand to make a huge fortune. That with the fees, oh my God, trillions. Vladimir Putin recognizes that we are extremely vulnerable. So what does he do? 2 weeks ago today, he announced that he was going to increase his oil production. He was going to pump more oil in an economy that all around the world, because of China and other reasons, in this Wuhan virus, demand is falling. But he's going to pump more. Instantly, bam, the next day, it forces Saudi Arabia to come out and say they have to pump more too, and the price of oil drops from $42 a barrel to $27 a barrel. The biggest single day drop in the price of oil in history, and it has been since that day, which is 2 weeks ago tomorrow, nothing but chaos ever since. And that's because the establishment, which is the US dollar, which is everybody knows the dollar is the world's reserve currency, but the dollar is the mechanism by which every single country is controlled. 88% of all world trade is conducted in US dollars. If you don't have US dollars, you're out. And if you can't trade, especially in this global economy, you're going to go broke. So everybody has to get into the game in one way or another. You've got dollar denominated debts out there in the trillions. And what holds them in place, what keeps those loans from going in default, is that if they default on their loans, the US government says, okay, or I should say not the US government, but the banks tell them, now you have to give up some of your commodities and assets, natural resources. We're going to go in and strip all of your forests. We're going to mine all of any resource of any value. We're going to fish your oceans. We're going to enslave your people. And there's nothing those countries can do, because if they fail to accept those terms, the US military is coming in, or they're going to do a coup. If you've ever read, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, you'll know what I'm talking about.
John
So,
Perkins.
mm-hmm.
Although
So,
the left uses that book to, avoid ever taking responsibility for anything. But anyway,
well, it's king dollar. The dollar is so powerful and is so oppressive and controls the entire world. It is the control mechanism that has everybody in bondage. Okay, and Putin saw an opportunity that what and very, very smart. If he goes in and just says, "I'm going to increase production," and the Fed is forced to bail out all of the oil companies, but now they have to bail them out not just on their bad debts, they have to subsidize 50% of the production costs of every barrel of oil, not just US oil companies, every oil company, including Saudi Arabia, okay, because it's all run on the petrodollar. They are, in one fell swoop, 2 weeks ago, Vladimir Putin destroyed the American empire. We're bankrupt, folks. We're done. There's no way out of this. He's got us. Right now, he is drinking a vodka and smoking a cigar and having a big laugh. There's nothing, any scenario, we can't get out of it. There's no way. The only thing we can do is go to war with them. Okay, we shut our economy down. How do we go to war with them? We're dead. Every Western country is shut down right now. And somebody didn't war game this out enough, and they allowed this to happen. And right now, I think what we're experiencing, and this is the big change, folks, these people have nothing left to lose. So I think they're saying to themselves, we can't let him win. So we're just going to crash the entire world economy back into the Stone Age. It's called the Samson option. And I think it's a really strong possibility that that's where we're going. Everything that we have ever known is going to change, because the US American empire is dead.
so where are the liberals going to get their free stuff from?
uh, Can you imagine? I think this take this last bit of money they are promising you and enjoy it because there's nothing coming behind it. That's my opinion. If this theory that I have is true, and you're not, no one's ever heard this from anybody else. But as soon as I heard it, and what did make me think this, the reason why I came up with this synopsis, this theory, is I was listening to an interview with Brother Nathaniel, who's defending. I'm not going to go into their names. Let's keep him out of this. He was challenging Brother Nathaniel in an interview about Vladimir Putin, that he was a stooge for the oligarchs and
Who
he
are
wasn't with them.
always the Jews. You're talking about Adam Green. Everything is the
Okay,
Jews.
I didn't want to like throw any,
Well, I've met Brother Nathaniel. He runs the Little Greek or the Little Russian Orthodox Church in Woodstock, New York, and I was doing some research in the library in Woodstock about 4 years ago, and he
Mhm.
walked into the library, so I met him that day.
Well, I think if you go into BitChute and look up that interview, it just took place in January. And the reason that I think it's so important is because Adam Green is trying to corner Brother Nathaniel in to say that Putin is he's a Zionist stooge,
Right.
that he's working for them, and Brother Nathaniel schooled that young man, let me tell you, and he stood him
Well,
up.
when I tried to question Adam Green on anything, he immediately turned against me and said I was a Zionist Israeli shill, like these half wits in the chat.
Well, well, Brother Nathaniel kind of like said, "Listen, you big dummy. What do you think how things work? It's called keep your friends close and your enemies closer." And if Putin was an ardent Zionist supporter and totally with the Zionists, let's say, then he would not be and promoting the expansion and the adoption of the Russian Orthodox Church amongst the Russian people. He is strongly encouraging and he is working with the Russian Orthodox Church. He is expanding Logos in Russia. He's expanding business. He's the only one that with what I believe is a growing economy. If you have Russian blood, you can go back to Russia. They will give you land, they will give you money, they will help you open up businesses. Russia is self-contained. They don't need to import anything. They have all
What
the
if what
natural
if you're
resources they could
Danish and
possibly need.
what if you're Danish and Welsh?
I think if you have a certain bit and you speak Russian and you can offer a valuable product and service that they really need, yeah, they'll let you come in. They will let you come in. But I know it's like it's sort of it's what do they call that? Israel has the same policy. Right of return, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, it's like right of return. So if you have Russian heritage, they'll welcome you back. And certainly they want people when they come back to bring innovations and businesses with them and help their economy grow. Because they got decimated. Look, right now, and this is another reason why Putin has every right to get his little pound of flesh. Not only did they screw with him with the Russian Revolution in 1993, all the blatant robbery that took place, all the Russian assets and natural resources that were stolen, the Russian oligarchs, okay, which is organized crime, right? All of this stuff, they had to completely rebuild their country. Then what happens? They get accused of meddling in our elections. They get sanctions placed against them. They want to build a pipeline and supply Europe with natural gas. And we keep blocking their efforts. They want to build a pipeline through Syria. They're an ally of Syria. And we go in and start a war in Syria. That pipeline is supposed to go through Iran. Oh, can't have it. There's Iran. Oh my God, they're the big enemy.
Well,
And I'm not
if you
saying that, and
now
I'm not saying they're great people.
here's
Don't get
the
me
here's
wrong.
the issue. Islam is a serious threat, and like I said, and you haven't gone through those 24 shows that we did, but when you go through all of that, you see that Islam is a very serious issue. And when all of their books say they have to kill or subjugate all kafir or non-believers, that's a big problem.
I agree. I agree with anybody who has that philosophy. But a lot of religions have that philosophy as well.
Um,
But
I don't, I think they're actually the only religion who over 50% of the religion is dedicated to dealing with and murdering non-believers. That's the only one, Islam. I'm,
that has
if,
to be handled.
if you can name another religion that even says anything like that, I would like to know about it.
Hmm. Well, I mean, getting back to the point of what our show is
Right,
supposed to be like, our show is to talk about this event and how this is our world has changed. There isn't going to be. I think a lot of people are expecting that when this is over in a couple weeks, I mean, eventually they're going to do the 2-week quarantine,
right.
and you're going to have to stay home, and then 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, whatever, they're going to lift the they're going to lift the quarantine. You're going to go back to work, and
You're gonna
everything's going to
crawl out
return.
of your cave, and then everything goes back to normal, and it won't.
It won't, no, because they've bankrupted virtually every corporation and every small business in America and around the world.
What about these 300 CEOs that walked over the last couple months?
Now we get to see who Donald Trump it really is. Because if Donald Trump really is like the QAnon people think, all right, who are obsessed with sex with children, I mean, I'm not trying to say that this pedophilia thing isn't real,
And the adrenochrome
but
and all that, right?
right, but they obsess on that as if that's the only issue when they're also many of those same people are providing aid and comfort to these Wall Street and political criminals. And just using terms like draining the swamp and focusing on pedophilia is only half the story.
Right.
Donald Trump can redeem himself and go down in history as the greatest president in U.S. history by not right now. He can't do that because he can't show his hand if this is the case. But if he's working with Putin, if he's on this, because we've been living in bondage for 300 years, ever since Cromwell
Right.
agreed to allow the Bank of England. We have been in bondage. This is not freedom we're living in.
Well,
This
and
is
he had
faux freedom.
the king of England killed and brought in his horde of people.
Mm-hmm. So for the first time in the 300 years, this Kabbalah can be brought to its knees and destroyed. So as soon as we get past the next phase of the crisis, we're in the shock part of the crisis now. And
Yeah, he had King Charles the First of England killed,
mm-hmm,
and King Charles the First was a Christian leader, and then they whacked him and brought in all this crap.
mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, and remember too, the Tsar of Russia, was first cousins to the royals in England. They were all interrelated. The Russians and the Germans and the royals in England were they were interrelated. They were all cousins. And don't think for a moment that the royals today are probably not sitting back and saying they're going to do to us what they did to their cousins. You know?
Right.
So everybody's kind of hoping. I think everybody's been thrown off with a lot of misdirection and conspiracy theories. But in reality, politics is still a major part. It's not all secret societies. Everything is about posturing and positioning. And if Putin is actually loyal to his bloodline, because that's what he would have to be, well, not loyal to, oh, I'm loyal to politics, I'm loyal to prestige, I'm loyal to money, loyal to his people. And he says to himself, this is our opportunity to get back for 100 years of suffering. And we can take these people and we can put them on the mattress and we can crush them. But he himself can't do it alone. Donald Trump, at some point, once they're able to figure out, once the snake stops squirming, okay, because they've cut its head off, and the body of the snake stops squirming, Donald Trump is going to have to make an announcement that he is closing all foreign military bases and bringing everybody home. He better do that, because if he doesn't bring them home before everything really settles out, then he's abandoning tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers all around the world, and they don't stand a chance because their supplies will run out and they'll be overrun. So he's got to bring the soldiers home. Once that happens, this cabal cannot be defended. And then people will be free for the first time to pull their pitchforks and torches. And many people in the military, I told you about that. I talked to a friend of mine earlier who's in the military. And when I told him this, he was like, I'm going to tell all of my buddies about this. Stay sharp, stay frosty. Something big is going to happen, and be ready for it. Now, if I'm wrong and they have figured out a way to get to Putin, or if Putin announces that he's going to cut production, then he's a dead man. He has to go all in, because they'll say, okay, great, we'll give you a pipeline, but they'll find some way, somehow, when you least expect it, he'll succumb to a heart attack. Oh, he ran over an IUD. I wonder why. Oh, we're going to have a false flag and we're going to blame it on Russia. We're going to drive him into war. Oh, we're going to do more currency manipulation and drive down the value of the ruble. We're going to just keep messing with him, and it's never going to stop. So I believe at this point, he's got his foot on the head of the snake, and he cannot afford to let up. So that means these guys are going down.
And you think the Russian economy and technology and innovation is on a huge boom right now, correct?
I do, because all you need to do is look at the Russian auto industry, and you see the advancements that they are making. They are making some of the finest cars and trucks in the world right now, and nobody knows about it because of the sanctions, and they are prohibited from opening dealerships in North America. But if they were here right now, they'd be blowing everybody away. And just go to YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's some pretty amazing stuff. And
So,
just look at their weaponry that they've been producing. Some of their missile technologies, we don't have a defense for it. Now we could overwhelm them, even with their high technology weapons, because we're the biggest, baddest military. I mean, even if you got 500 really good smart bombs that can take out ships, we're just going to overwhelm you with so much other stuff. It's going to take you 1,000 years to recover, if you ever do. So they don't want to.
they've been suppressing even the knowledge of the Russian auto industry and everything, because when I lived in Europe back in the 90s, the Lada Niva was about the top of the line, and you had the Russian Moscoviches and this kind of stuff, and that was about as high tech as it got. But just scrolling through this, I mean, they got big rig dirt trucks that look like lowriders and stuff going on here. All kinds of stuff. I'm just kind of scrolling through photos of Russian auto technology and stuff, and none of it is based on this fake electric car crap that you and I exposed a few years ago.
No.
Like the
Nope.
imploding, the imploding and exploding Tesla.
Right. Yep, the scam. They're just building good quality cars. Putin went to them 5 years or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, and told automakers in Russia, "Look, we want to make the best cars in the world. We want to do it, and within 5 to 10 years, we want to be the premier car auto manufacturer on the planet." And this has got the West, Japan, China, everybody so intimidated. It's another reason why they're throwing sanctions at them and other things, because just look at the stuff they're building. It's amazing. It's really come a long way. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years from now? Oh my
Well,
gosh.
we'll all be driving Russian cars. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we might be. Well, not now. I think the days of auto exports, I think it's all going to turn inward for everybody, which is okay. You know,
So we're going to go back to a nationalist economy rather than this globalist crap, is what you're saying,
right?
right?
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that would be great. Although, back when I lived in Europe, nobody wanted to drive Russian cars, so now it's going to be the thing. That would be kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I
One
remember
great thing.
the only cool car that the Russians had back then was like the Lada Niva, and it was like this four-wheel drive. I don't know. It was like a little sedan that was four-wheel drive, kind of like the old uh, Eagle cars, like Jeep Eagles, But it was that was about the only thing cool they had, and it was like, wow, nobody
Sure.
nobody wanted to buy that crap.
Now let's talk about, like, we know that everything is coming inward. What happens next? Without the dollar, are we screwed? No. They can issue a greenback, just like Lincoln did.
Well, and Trump has been saying he wants to get back to the gold standard. So, is that more
Bad,
evidence that he's actually planning this ahead?
bad idea for gold standards.
Is it?
Yeah, that's those people talking about that. Again, most of these people have no clue. They don't know anything about the history of money. I suggest people go back. He was a guy who actually worked for it back in the 1980s in New Jersey. Uh, he died last year. His name is Andy Goss. Um, he was on a program called The Real World of Money, but he wrote a book called The History of Money, and he personally taught me a lot
Did you
when I
did you
worked
ever
for him.
did you ever catch my shows with Steven Zarlinga back in the day? The Lost Science of Money, I think, was his book. He died a few years ago, but I had him
I
on the
never heard.
show. Had him on the show numerous times way back in the very beginning,
Hmm.
and he was saying that the
So
gold standard could be easily corrupted as well.
absolutely bad idea. Actually, the one of the best systems, believe it or not, is fiat money. There's
Yeah,
really nothing wrong with it, providing that you have honest accounts and measures, providing you have equal justice under the law, that no one's allowed to break the law. Nobody is too big. There are no too big to fails. And when criminal activity takes place, those people need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and they need to be punished. But we don't have that. We do
not
not
bailed
have,
out.
not bailed, right, not bailed out. We don't have that today. We haven't had that for years now. And we need to get back to that. And we can get back to it, but it takes a bit of diligence. Once we are back to it, by the way, once if they issue, let's say, a greenback like Lincoln did, which is not based on any foreign debt, it's based on the productivity, which is labor
Right,
of Americans.
right, exactly.
And he unleashes and deregulates business, not to go and pollute, just to go and create. There
Well,
are so
well, that's
there's
that's such a lie that the whole thing is about pollution. Why can't and
absolutely
innovation can have the exact opposite effect, but it's not going to be driving Priuses that cause traffic jams and Teslas that explode, and
right.
and need all of the rare earth minerals from China to even be able to build.
And land will gain its real value. We won't have this fire economic model, which is finance, real estate, and insurance. Instead, the value of land will be the productive capacity of the land: farming, mining, fishing, and manufacturing. Okay? Those are the things that create wealth. And those efforts are shared with the people who actually do the work, like Henry Ford tried to do,
Right,
where he shared the profits. And of course, the financiers on Wall Street, they didn't want that.
right, and then
They like slave labor.
let
You know,
everybody had the prices low enough so that all of his employees could buy a Model T.
right? And they could live in a nice house and raise a family.
and
Their
and
wife
and
didn't have to work. It
right.
was
Well, what's funny is, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The other day, I made a funny comment on Facebook. At least I thought it was funny. Of course, a couple of feminists got upset, but they can't help but get upset about something. But I had posted. I'm just looking for it here. Let's see. Oh, here's a funny one. Remember, you can always eat vegans. They're the closest we have to grass-fed, and they have no capacity to fight back.
yeah, with their
But
man buns.
Well, no, that was a different one I posted. I wrote, I'm wondering where the soy eating, man bun, skinny jean wearing, basement dwelling beta male fits into the future of humanity. But
They are. They're going extinct.
they're going extinct, right? Yeah,
I am rubbing my hands.
right.
Yeah,
So
I can't wait.
yeah, so here's what I wrote. I said, and just like that, they understood gender roles again. Men hunted, protected, women sewed, cooked. Everyone survived.
And everyone was happy.
And everyone was happy. And it's like, people think that, oh, well, men were trying to suppress women. That's why they didn't allow women to work in the mines and be police officers and firefighters. No, it was because the women raised the kids and the women had the wombs, and it was to protect the women, where the men went out and hunted and fought the enemy and did all of the dangerous crap so that the women could be safe at home with the children. It wasn't about suppression, it was about protection. And the left, through the Huxleyan Brave New World crap and feminism, spun all of that to its inverse.
Well, that could all, the possibility here in the next few years, now that this cabal will go, could very possibly go, if I'm right. That's all going to end, and life will be maybe like the 1950s. I don't know, but we are going to, when this thing resets, and if he resets the correct way, we are going to enter a period of prosperity like none other in the history of the world.
So
I mean, it's going to be amazing.
Where do you see the snowflake tears of the liberals in the coming months?
Oh, they're going to revert or die.
Revert or die?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of purging. I mean, there's going to be a cleansing. There's a lot of. I believe in forgiveness and I believe in redemption. Okay, I think
you must be a Christian.
Yeah, I am. I'm a proud follower and believer of Logos. Yes.
Yes. All right.
And I believe that everybody has they have the option and the opportunity. They have the free will, and many of them will, simply because a lot of them are that way now because they think it's kind of hip and posh, and they've gotten the attention from a few people, and they kind of go with it. But when that reverts and they're shamed for that, I think they're going to be very happy when they see the happiness and the prosperity of people, and their little pouting faces are not going to be welcome to the party. Because they're going to see everybody happy.
Yeah.
They're going to see everybody living together and everybody being really cool with each other for a change. I mean, living in your neighborhood without locking your door, no pressure. But folks, a loaf of bread's going to cost a nickel again.
You really think so?
Yeah. Look, $1 today is everybody's
hyperinflated, right?
Right. Dollar is only $1 today buys, or maybe I got that reverse. Okay, $1 in 1913 only buys you 2 cents worth of stuff today.
Right.
$1. Now, what does that mean? They say that's inflation, but no, that's inflation, the accumulation of the interest due on all previously created debts since 1913. That all goes away. So $1 becomes $1 again. So what is it? What does a loaf of bread cost? I shop at all these. I buy a loaf of bread. It's $3.50.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
All these is cheaper than anybody else. But what is $3.50? I mean, I've seen $5 in other stores for loaves of bread, and so if 98% of that is interest, the price is going to fall 98%.
With the destruction of the current, or the collapse of the current system. If
the dollar
and keep in mind, folks, that this is your theory on what is going to happen, and what
it is if I'm correct about Putin, in that he's got them in the chokehold and there's no way out. And understand, there is no way out. That we cannot afford to subsidize. It costs, at least with today's production. Okay, I don't care where you are, even in Saudi Arabia. On average, just figure the high cost of shale with offshore drilling to easy, sweet crude production in Saudi Arabia. The average cost to drill a barrel of oil in this world is at least $45 a barrel. And with a falling demand, because now you've crushed all of your industry. So now it's going to become very competitive, much more competitive than before. And Putin has none of Putin hasn't shut down anything. People are still working over there. The bars are open, everything. I mean, they're just checking people at the border, but they're not going crazy because of this coronavirus. They're actually looking at it rationally and saying it doesn't warrant at this point shutting everything down, so we're not going to
Right.
do it. So they've they're in the catbird seat, and all they have to do is just keep pumping the oil, and that's going to force all of the Western producers, if they want to sell their oil, it's going to sell at $20 a barrel. And it's never going to come off that price. It might fluctuate up and down. There's going to be market manipulations, but no matter what, because he has the upper hand now, he can always outproduce us. We've shut down so many different operations.
Here you go. Somebody said, Tim in the chat says, we all become Amish farmers, craftsmen, artists, hamlets, villages.
Would that be such a bad thing?
No, that wouldn't be such a bad thing
actually,
at all.
That those people are actually kind of happy.
Yeah, they're just sitting there going, "Yep, we said it was coming. We said it was coming." So, do you see a large upsurge in Christianity and people returning to Logos in the coming months and years?
I think people are going to have to reflect inward. There's going to be less narcissism. Obviously,
which is what the left is based on, is narcissism, and
right. So that people are going to have to look to their families. They're going to have to depend upon each other, protect each other, get to know their neighbors again, develop their own networks of barter, and learning how to do things for other people in exchange for goods and services for a little while. It's going to be a big adjustment. I mean, if we don't get out of this, and King Dollar's done. I mean, it could be, if we don't have the right people, and I think the right people are there. It's just that this current system is so oppressive, it's so corrupt, that the right people just simply can't stomach the idea of them actually stepping up and actually providing leadership. Encouraging and inspiring people. And those people are going to rise up and say, okay, now we can take over. Now we can round up all that we have. Now we can put these people in their place, and we can restore the original, let's call it the Constitution, whatever you might say. And they can restore states' rights and put the federal government in its place, and just run a low-cost administration system, and make sure that you have a militia and military that can defend our borders from foreign invaders, which is unlikely to happen because, it's not in anybody's interest to do that.
Okay, I want to read some of these comments here, and thanks, Delbridge, for the super chat. Please throw up your super chats if you have questions and whatnot. Percival Logos says, hey guys, I'm here in Guatemala and we are under house arrest from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.
That's coming here.
Yeah. And then
that's coming here.
Mm-hmm. So, and then Ting Ting Shiny says, so do all the hippies that lived off the land. We are surrounded by large hippie communities that have been running for 50 plus years. Most of the hippie communities collapsed because, unfortunately, it's based on socialism and everybody has to participate equally. And you get so many people that are just high and not willing to participate, so those things end up collapsing.
We need a system that's strictly based on free enterprise. Okay, not capitalism. Capitalism is usury and sodomy, but free enterprise and fair trade.
Now, Joe Barron, he's very astute here. He says, the good thing about 327 Federal Mag is not too many people need it, thus more for us. Cool dudes. Very correct. In fact, Greg and I talked about that earlier today.
Yeah, I think that some people in the military, when the time comes, they are going to open up. They're going to open up the supply depots to the public. because not all the people in the military are on the side of these Kabbalists. They know
Yeah,
what
the
they know
leftist
what's
gun
going on.
grabbers. They wanna level the
Yeah.
playing field.
Well, they know that if this is really possibly like, look, the government right now, if what I'm saying is true, and I have nobody's been able to show me that that's not the case. Putin has not backed down, and it's been two
All right.
weeks.
Well, voluntarism. I don't think anarchism would work. Somebody's bringing up
Yeah.
anarchy. I'm not a fan of anarchy. It's nor libertarianism, but
Mhm.
a free economy and whatnot is what we need. Libertarianism is basically the belief that you should sell or do whatever you want without repercussion, as long as it's consensual, including selling drugs and pornography, without any
Isn't that
responsibility to.
do
Yeah,
without will?
do
That's do
without
without
wilt is
will.
the whole of the law, like Satanism, right? And then
Yeah.
and so there's no social responsibility for the damage done to society as a whole. And then boutique calibers have their place in the world.
Listen,
um,
we have to structure our society like the old Catholic parishes in Europe before they were corrupted after the oh, what was the name of that? I'm not a theologian, but anyway,
yeah. Look up the
prior
true
to the
definition of anarchy. I have, but that's a whole other discussion. I've done shows on anarchy in the past. Not a fan of it.
mhm.
And thank you, Lee. Love the show because of the Christian slant. Much appreciated for the Canadian 20 he threw us. Really appreciate that. And Jesus Christ says, "I dig anarchy." Not really, but that's a nice spin. Uh,
Well,
anyway,
you know that it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun watching the chaos ensue for a little while. I mean, I'm smiling about it. I was really depressed for a little bit, but then I realized, hey, you have an opportunity to see something that probably 100 million human beings that were massacred in the last 100 years
yeah.
would
From
have
the
loved to have been able to see.
Well, and massacred by the left, by the way, by the socialist and
Massacre.
socialist
Well,
communist belief systems.
yeah. Well, this is this cabal which
Well,
has
and,
funded
and
it.
you're really lowballing that. It's more like 148 to 202 million, but yeah. Um,
I just said over the last 100 years.
Element Free Dive says, "Would you ban or allow brothels? Obviously, those are very destructive, spread disease, destroy families, et cetera, et cetera. How about focus on real things that build up society rather than tear it down?" Um,
Hmm.
you
I
will
always
not
think
like anarchy when a mob decides they don't like you.
that's true. I think we're always going to have a sin city, so there'll be brothels somewhere, and but it'll be in a place that can do no harm because everybody has to have human beings are flawed, you know.
Right?
Without logos, they're flawed, and
And
so
what is logos? Jesus is logos incarnate, and he provides the example of how to live freely and in truth, or in logos. And of
mhm.
course, you get these people who try to spin it that, oh, it's mind control and circular logic and reasoning. Of course, they're not intelligent enough, and I was guilty of this at one time myself, of not reading the Bible and especially the New Testament before they judge it. And once you get that it's about living in truth and that God is truth and Satan is the father of all lies, it makes very clear sense. And in fact, logos is where we get the word logic from.
Hmm.
And
It's logical. It's rational.
it's rational, it's reasonable, but you have to read it first. And of course, you have a lot of Satanist disinformation out there against it. But once you grasp what it is, it makes perfect sense. And all high cultures were based on Christianity.
Hmm.
So, what is Islam invented in the last 100, 200 years? There's been one Islamic Nobel laureate, like ever. So,
Yeah.
and he probably didn't live in the Middle East. I'll almost guarantee that.
Well, they are. Everybody will fall. Those who do not. Those who do not create an economy that is based on, I believe, like I said, free enterprise and fair trade with your neighbors, whether they're a foreign country or the state next door or your neighbor in the next town. Um, if we don't conduct ourselves in balance, um, then this is going to go. And this process, by the way, that we're in, it's going to go off the rails. It's going to happen anyway because this cycle, and I believe these things are secular. We win this because that's the way God works. He doesn't allow Satan to win. He uses Satan's naivete or say hubris for it to knock him down. But as soon as he's knocked down, because it's a never-ending battle, there's no exit strategy. They're going to start conspiring to take over the system again.
All
and
right.
we have to be diligent to keep that from happening as long as possible. But eventually, it'll get back to where it is right now.
And Delbridge threw up another super chat. He says, what economic system would Jesus recommend for us? Logos would follow a free market system, which is based on the individual and individual.
Free market and charity.
Right. And, whereas communism is about stealing and redistributing, free market and Christianity is about your own creativity and giving, Unfortunately, this giving out of the churches right now has created this mess that we see with the feces in the streets in the big cities and everything now. Mm-hmm. And there's a pastor I would love to get on. I recommend the audience check out a recent documentary. It came out about 6 months ago called San Francisco. And this pastor really exposes how these churches aren't following what the Bible says, which is work 6 days and rest 1. They're just giving, and giving all of these people incentive to never work and just live in the streets pooping. And so, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to, that just threw me off.
Yeah, well, Element Free Free Dive says legalize for unrestricted use of hemp and cannabis. Trump already legalized hemp, and being high on cannabis isn't going to help anyone. We already have enough basements full of beta male basement dwellers with man buns and skinny jeans and bongs in their hands. I don't think that's going to be the solution to anything at this point. And, here's the thing is when you're living in logos or truth, you're going to move away from that stuff, and you're going to realize that, like I did, that you don't need it anymore. The more you live in truth, the less you need to self-medicate.
And the less you need to pursue childish endeavors. Correct.
So, well said. Childish. That's a good way to put it. There's so many comments going up. I can't even keep up with them all. But, yeah, Eric says, Ordo ab chao. That's exactly what they pulled here. Bartering is like anarchy. It's pushed on solo mothers in New Zealand. Always has been pushed on us. We worked the green dollar trade via Ministry of Social Departments to top up our benefits for our children.
Mm-hmm. So just as a reminder, if people go and look for that Adam Green thing and you can hear Brother Nathaniel's, that's what led me to this conclusion. Because if Brother Nathaniel is correct and Putin he's actually loyal to his bloodline, then this makes perfect sense. And we're seeing the end of the American empire.
So Eric Solveson, I'm just going to address this guy, and I'll pass it back over to you. He's like just, weed is the healing of all the nations, and he's just, he's pushing all of the pro-hemp medical marijuana stuff. I was the Inland Empire coordinator for the California Hemp Initiative for like 18 years. You're preaching to the choir, buddy. I've moved away from all of that stuff. THC, he says, creates clinical apoptosis in cancer cells, and it also creates a lot of the same problems that it treats in other areas. But if you quit eating lots of carbohydrates and crappy foods and things your body doesn't need, you aren't going to have the cancer cells and all of that stuff to need the weed. So again, it goes back to living in truth, not just beating the "we got to have weed" drum. Get away from that. Hemp is legal. Go grow hemp. Go make your shorts and your shirts, and have your future wife you weave and sew all that hemp together for you into some nice hemp clothes. I've still got hemp clothes that I bought 30 years ago. I get it, but hemp is not the solution to everything.
No, the solution is follow Logos, and soon you'll be able to follow Logos and live a successful life.
Correct.
And that's going to be great. And looking forward to it. I think we're all going to be, we've all got a front row seat to the greatest show on earth.
Yeah, for sure, right?
And we didn't even have to buy a ticket.
And it's not even Barnum and Bailey. You're not going to see any elephants this time.
But it is a 3-ring circus. Dun, 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 dun.
That's
you're gonna see a lot of things happening. You see a lot of rats scurrying and roaches running.
Yeah, you never did get your camera working, I see.
Gonna figure it out.
Not hemp, not CBD. See, they're just going on and on. They're caught in the "weed's gonna save the world" thing, and it's like, just stop with the drug narrative. All you're doing is, if you want to build a future, go out, get married, have some kids. The first thing you'll see is that, you know what, I don't want my kids around drugs all the time. I'm going to ditch that stuff. So, and then when you're focused on your family and your future and providing for them, then you'll realize you need to build for that future. And, your life won't be weed-centered, weed-centric. But, let me just add to this really quickly. Weed does promote very liberal world perspectives or views, and that's
it's processes, right?
Right. It's not helping anybody. Oh, the government's everything is all the government's fault. It's all the white racists and blah blah blah. It's just get away from the weed narrative and grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a really cool time. So why would you want to dull your senses on it? The occasional thing, yeah, but I think life is going to get really exciting. It might be too exciting to miss. Who knows? Now, on the other side, if I'm wrong about all this and Putin backs down, then the rest of our lives is going to be a drudgery, because what they will do, or what they can't have to do, and they're pushing us towards a technocracy more than anything else. But with what they've done now, with the level of unemployment, remember, so far they have created 30 million unemployed people in the last 3 weeks, for the last 4 weeks. And that's probably going to double, because the stock market is going to go way down from here. It's not going to go down. It's going to go down until if Putin is just doing this for leverage. When he says, okay, I'm going to cut production, that's when we're going to see a retracement, and that's when we're going to see the bottom, and things are going to start coming back. But the damage is done. It's going to take us probably at least a year for things to come back to even somewhat normal, maybe 2. There ain't going to be an NFL season this year, folks. Okay? There will not be an NFL season this year.
God, these people are still going on about weed. Their whole life revolves around weed rather than family. They need to grow up. Aaron Zachary says, my wife and I, our lifestyle is surprisingly cut out for quarantining. Not much has changed at all about our daily lives, fortunately. Good for you, Aaron. Good to hear that you guys were prepared. Richard Valentin says hi from Spain. And so you're getting out there a little bit. So it's, I don't know what to say. People are just going to, think that weed is going to be the solution to everything. And You know, you're
I don't
gonna
know.
you're
What
gonna need to ditch the skinny jeans and man bun and get out and do some stuff. And
talk about that was so February 2020.
right,
I
well,
mean,
and now it's March. You know, it's past the equinox. It's past my birthday, and you know, so people gotta get
oh,
over that stuff. You know, and it's like,
now I said that kind of like in jest, but you realize
see this
that
now they're calling me an idiot. You know, it's like I tell them I was the California coordinator, or I was the coordinator for the California Hemp Initiative for 18 years. I've studied hemp inside and out. I threw dirt on Jack Hare's grave. I know far more about it than these people have any clue that I do about it. And, you know, they're just so caught up in weed, man. Smoke some weed, dude. This pure melt guy is an idiot. He's going bye-bye.
hmm
Bye bye, weed centric fool. Probably don't have any kids or anything either. So, when you grow up, suddenly you realize that you don't want your kid doing that every day for, you know. And so this guy has
why
like been smoking a quarter ounce for 36 years and blah blah blah. I think my immune system was so strong I lived through it. So there's that. Yeah, and just think where you could be if you didn't smoke a quarter ounce for 36 years. Think of that. Think of
I don't know.
where, you know, imagine spending $100 on weed every day for 36 years times 365. Let's say he spent $100 times 365. You know, so what is that? So 100 times 365 times
36 rows.
36 is 1,300,000. So there you have it. What
hmm
could you done with $1.3 million up to now?
You could have been like Steve Martin, like
Right. Well,
how
see,
to be a millionaire.
and
First, get
she's saying
$1 million.
I'd be dead. See, I used it when I still ate wheat to stop nausea, and then when I realized that the 15 years I used that for, that it was being caused by eating grains and gluten, then I didn't need it anymore. So why don't you find the root cause of it? And it's not, you're not weed deficient. You're doing something else to your body. So focus on that rather than thinking you need weed. But yeah, so everybody's just so been out of shape that I said that they don't need weed, you know.
hmm
Yeah, here's Scott Perry is one person who's speaking sense here. After smoking weed for 25 years, it was like coming out of a haze. Christ set me free and completely delivered me from self-medicating. Good job, buddy. Same with me. And when I became a Christian, I didn't need it or want it anymore because I found Logos and living in truth. So I hope some of these people listen to this and maybe get down to the root cause and think about what they're doing and let go of that. But, you know, I fought to have weed legalized. You know, I ran the California Hemp Initiative, and it's like when Trump legalized hemp a couple years ago, it was like, yeah, okay. They don't, you know, see, we were the ones that got hemp seed in the grocery stores 25 years ago. Nobody even knows today that that was us and our group of friends that did it. And, you know, and now you can buy hemp clothes and all of this stuff everywhere. Nobody knows that was our group of people that did that. And then they talk about, like, you know, oh, well, you got to have some weed, man. You're freaking dumb, dude, because you got to have some cannabis. Since you're still talking about it, some people do use cannabis medicinally. Yeah, I just talked about that, didn't I, Greg? I think I just talked about that. Yeah, you
hmm
know, there may be some heavy trauma there. A lot of it, again, it causes a lot of the stuff. Like, I found that it caused as much anxiety as it took care of, and getting rid of it cut the anxiety out of my life. So anyway, people are just going to defend their weed to the death, and never mind how much it pushes people to be liberals and how much feminist type thinking it promotes as well.
What I'm a little bit curious though, Jan.
Yeah.
we're talking about the most serious subject,
Right, and everybody's worried about weed, where their
and they're
weed is going to
talking
be.
about weed.
Right. They're
It's
worried where their weed supply is going to be in the coming weeks and months and if it should be legal in the future. I mean, that's like, oh my
take a
God.
breath. Do you realize the magnitude of what's happened right now? Do you realize that we could be in actually be in a Mad Max situation in the next
Right?
couple of weeks?
Are you gonna get the mohawk and the funny outfit?
I gotta get the guy with the skull mask. Like, just walk away, just give up.
Oh man.
No, I mean, in reality, we do. I think it's going to get that bad? No, but we are. This is really serious, guys. This isn't about your, getting high.
Yeah, well,
Let's be the last thing on your mind.
Peter Zinko is scared. He's like, "Stop talking about weed and get back on this important subject." Exactly, people. If you people are so worried about your weed, you got to rethink everything. So,
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you, Zero
really.
Infinity. And by the way, Zero, you are a mod. Feel free to activate your mod privileges. Mod privileges activated. Form of a banner.
There
So,
you go.
anyway, I'm just being funny here. But,
All right. Well, I think a lot of people have to understand that, we've been dominated with criminals. Wall Street is run by mainly criminals. There are good people that work there. A lot of people work there that really feel they can do, they're trying to do good work, you know, um, but they get caught up in a system that's, highly corrupt, and many people get out of it, like I did, but there are others who don't. And so the first step is to recognize these people are trying to get away with a huge crime. We can't allow that to happen
yeah.
because they'll misdirect people and say it's the coronavirus or it's the politicians because they sold their stock. You realize they set those politicians up so that as a deflection, hoping that because they knew that at some point people would start talking about, that this is actually a financial crime taking place.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious when you start thinking about if stock values fall, somebody else is buying them up when they're cheap.
Yeah.
Shanty Lives is still going on. 5G will be the real hit. It'll be when the inner city people start going and looting and robbing and burning and, shutting everything down. I think 5G is the least of your problems right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going on about weed. They can't get over weed. They're just weed, weed. I got to have my weed.
All right, let's
Uh,
stop acknowledging them.
yeah.
The 5G guy, because that's important. Understand something that all the 5G companies, as of right now, are bankrupt. So don't worry about 5G. Okay, it's seriously, without the government coming in and bailing them out, they're done. So as of right now, I don't think we have to worry about these little techno things anymore. Um, keep your eye on the oil markets. That's all I can say. Keep your eye on the, just listen. And
And
if we,
oil is not evil. Go back and watch my other 3 shows with Greg.
mm-hmm, because if we hear in the news that he's going to step off it, then God help us all. So just say your prayers. Hopefully, he's walking with God, and he's doing this. So he's doing all of us a great favor. He's a communist. Maybe he's a communist because he has to be because the cabal was there long before he was born, and he has to play along in the field he has to play in. But we can get rid of all communism now, and he can go back to just being Russian. Russia could be Russia again, and we could be America, and it could be really cool.
Right.
So I think a lot of people have to pray for him right now because he needs that strength. Because I hope he doesn't let off on this. I really hope he doesn't.
See, now it's like, but what about oil and fracking? See, Greg is an oil man. We've already done shows on oil. Oil is the lifeblood of the planet. It's abiogenic. It's not a fossil fuel. That's all a big lie. And the whole green economy, Ocasio-Cortez, BS. Well, I mean Bernie Sanders BS. When I say
Mhm.
BS, I mean Bernie Sanders. All of that stuff is nonsense. They're just trying to further collapse the economy and society and everything by that. This is like a front runner for Bernie Sanders' whole plan.
Yeah, and hey, look, there's a lot of bad people in the oil industry. I admit that. They're in business, and business is war,
Right.
and they have done things that are not good. But the oil itself is a gift from God. It's not polluting. Saying that oil is a pollutant is like saying the ocean's polluted because the water's salty.
Well said. So, I recommend people go back and check out my way back Gnostic Media episode. What was that? 241. A biogenic petroleum, peak oil, and fossil fuels debunked with Greg Quinones. And
Hmm.
that'll wake you up as to what oil really is, and all the fear of cow farts and everything. We discussed cow
And hopefully
farts
it'll
and
open people's eyes about green energy, that it ain't so green.
right,
In
and
fact,
and
it's
green
the most
energies,
polluting form of
right,
energy.
and you send the economy over to China, which is what we're dealing with right now. And
Right.
then somebody says, "Ever lost your farm to fracking?" You want to answer that, Greg?
So have I lost a farm to fracking?
Well, so what they're
No,
talking
of
about
course
is
not.
when you dig down the 0.001% that um, leaks up into a water well or something, and whatever.
It happens anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah,
That's the whole point. You can go to where there's before there was fracking in the Marcellus region in Pennsylvania and Ohio, in lower parts of Western New York State. Um, they were getting methane seepage into the wells because it's constantly moving. Oil is being pushed up. What do you think the oil sands are in Canada? That's just oil from deep down that has pushed its way up to the surface,
yeah. Well,
and it's coming up in the ground.
Eric's got to have weed and blame fracking for all his problems. So
Listen, fracking, it's the problem with fracking is economically the technology they're using, though it's good, it's advanced from when it originally started in the 1950s. Uh, and there's certainly better technology now. The players in the industry are preventing the new fracking technology to
from
come to market
right,
because they want to control everything. So innovators are being put out of business. I know a guy who's developed a fracking technology in Oklahoma that could literally triple the yield from a frack.
now he
And
says the arsenic levels in his well were 8 times the recommended by the FDA. And so it was all caused by fracking apparently, and there never would have been oil or anything under his ground if it wasn't for the frackers.
well, frackers, I don't know how he can say that. If he understands fracking, it's ultra deep. If you're
Right,
going, your well is only 50, 100 feet, maybe at most. They're down 12,000 feet. So you're listening to the wrong people.
right.
I mean, it has nothing to do with it. That they're so
So
far, they're 2 miles below your well.
where did he get the?
That's
Yeah, right. Where
how do you
did?
do that?
Yeah, exactly. And where did the arsenic come from? I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Probably from his weed crops.
Hmm. The average frac goes down 10 to 12,000 feet. So people have to get off of it. They see a few movies. You know what? Watch that movie with Matt Damon. Is that called? Gasland? No, it's a different movie title. It was an HBO film that came out a couple of years ago. And that movie, believe it or not, I was shocked when I saw it. And it probably came out about 5 years ago. And it exposes exactly what the oil industry does. It's really
See, now
funny.
now Eric is just going on. He's probably never done any actual research. He probably watched some liberal documentary on it. Houses have blown up in Firestone, Colorado, which just got settled in court for millions of dollars. Maybe they did something wrong, but I haven't looked up the case nor studied it exactly, and I doubt you have either. But he's just, at first he couldn't stop about weed, and now it's fracking. He won't stop about the freaking fracking.
Frickin' fracking.
They go
Talking
down,
about,
down
don't worry
where,
about,
down.
listen, don't worry about fracking. It's over. There ain't going to be any more fracking after this. Why you're stuck in the past, man. It's a new day. The page is turned. That's so last chapter now. So there will be no more fracking after this. I'm telling you.
Right.
The economy's changed. All these little things you're worried about, they're going away. It's the world. It's a new world. Get used to it.
It's a brave new world. Thanks, Aldous Huxley. You finally got your
Yeah.
wish.
Well, maybe not the way he intended, but
Yeah, well,
it's we're going back to 1850 in a way. We still got some great technology we can really build upon. A lot of innovation is going to come loose now because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen, but those things are going to take a little bit of time. They have to establish a new finance system. All this can be done relatively quickly, but my gosh, I mean, in maybe a year and a half from now,
well, you got to
holy
get
crap.
you got to get all the man bun beta male basement dwellers off the couch and off the weed to start start this kickoff here. But everybody's so glued to their bong or their vaporizer, it's going to be stalled until people get off the weed and the drugs.
And enjoy this platform.
Okay, so Lee Steffen says it's Matt Damon in Promised Land 2012.
Promised Land. That's it. Yeah, it was so okay. So that quite a bit, 8 years ago. Great movie. It shows you the very people that were behind the anti-fracking movement that created a lot of, let's call it I don't know, the conspiracies about it, like burning things. It was the oil industry themselves who started that and actually funded it, funded the anti-fracking movement.
See,
And
yeah.
and you wonder why. Why would they do that? Because
Right.
of psychological warfare.
Exactly. So what's that? What's that quote I always use from Steve Hager, the former head of High Times, the CIA guy who did a bunch of hit pieces on me when I came out exposing the psychedelic revolution as MK Ultra. And so this is the former editor in chief of High Times magazine. But that's the way spooks play their games. If there's going to be a social movement against whatever you're doing, it's best if you secretly create and orchestrate that movement against yourself right away so that it never does any unintended damages to your personal fortunes.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. Not only in the psychedelic arena, but in the freaking fracking arena.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if people only knew, they would actually really calm down about the oil industry, and they would say it's really important and we need to have good people running it.
Right, but they want to have Chinese solar panels that cause way more pollution and whatnot, and once you get
They don't even the Chinese solar power panels are a subsidy to the oil industry.
Because it
requires
takes oil to make them.
Takes oil to make them, ship them, manufacture, install them, and maintain them. More BTUs from oil are going to be used in that process than what the solar panels are ever going to generate. So it's like you're just prepaying for your energy, and most of it's going to oil companies. It's just we are so sophomoric and stupid because of propaganda, this psychological war that has been that is it centered and geared towards us, that people they're not able to think things through critically and rationally. And
well, we give them the trivium to do that for over a decade now, and they're still stuck on it.
But necessity, because it never had to. I mean, it's easy to go off and believe in, pixie dust and fairy tales, but that's going to change now. That's the good news. We'll see how it all shakes out. Either way, I'm telling you,
I'm
These
gonna
next
Lee
couple of weeks are going to be really crazy.
moderator leave Bernard C alone, and I'm gonna put Eric on timeout. I've had enough. Eric is just going on and on and on like a broken record about his weed and his freaking fracking. It's like, man, dude, go get some facts, go study it on, an actual level. Well, he heard some stuff about his farm and he got arsenic in his well. Maybe his neighbor put it there to destroy his farm.
Who knows?
Who knows?
There'll be a lot of possibilities. We don't know. I wasn't there. He wasn't there, I'm sure. Maybe it did happen. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was just, sometimes frackers make mistakes. And if that's the case, then the landlord should be compensated.
And
But
sometimes
otherwise,
weed smokers make mistakes too. So,
yeah, they breathe.
no, I was meaning something else, but anyway.
Uh-huh. I think we kind of covered the hypothesis
Right, we did. I
and the
think that's a
theory
good
aside from the all the weed
talk.
talk.
Good grief, man.
Mm-hmm.
So Lee wants to know any recommendations, any other indicators other than the oil market.
The oil market right now is the only thing you need to watch. I would expect we're going to see, if I'm right, and the cabal realizes it's game over, we're going to experience the Samson option, and that is stock market to zero and a complete, what they hope is a Mad Max scenario, complete destruction of the economy, and we go into another dark ages. That depends on us because remember, they can
Well,
have a war, but we don't have, that doesn't mean we have to show up.
didn't I say that they were trying to create a new dark age like freaking years ago? Gee, I think I laid all of that out in my shows
But
a decade ago.
a dark age means they have to go dark too, and they have to sit and wait and be patient and probably have to wait another 1,000 years to recoup
Well,
the power, the level of the power they have now.
Terrence McKenna predicted a short dark age, and that they were going to wipe out and cull the population this way. And this is what the psychedelic movement was all promoting. All these, frackers from the Esalen Institute up in Big Sur. William Cruz says, Greg, what is your forecast for precious metals?
I think precious metals are a good, nice, cozy, little warm feeling. If I'm gold is money, as people have always claimed, but diamonds are the real money. And a lot of people think like, oh, you're crazy for saying that. The world is filled with diamonds. I'm talking about I'm talking about the clear, cut and polished stones, flawless stones. Those are very rare, very expensive. While you're trying to swim across a river with a suitcase full of gold, I can basically go, if I need to, swallow $10 million worth of diamonds and walk right through security.
Right, and
While
poop it
you're
out.
trying to and poop them out and just deal with the mess later. But I got my money. You go ahead and try and swim across the river with them. Have at that. Good luck. So it's not,
Yeah.
they're nice to look at. They're great in numismatics. They're great in bars. Really great. But I think a lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid and not really understanding because they're hearing things saying it's been gold for 5,000. It's been money for 5,000 years. Not really.
Well, yeah, and most of the gold that we have was taken by slave labor, whether it was Montezuma
Mhm.
or whatnot, on and on. It just
Do you know
that's the
what
way it goes.
do you know what the most successful currency was or means of exchange was? The money stick. For
Yeah,
700 years, it worked brilliantly, and they had to get rid of that because it worked too well.
yeah.
So, you know, do I think all these people, these gold bugs, and you're hearing a lot of that? I think it's just people that are selling a financial conspiracy to people, and they make They make money on it, and they're basically profiting from people's fears. And I'm not about making a profit on anybody's fears. I don't do that. So, I think it's a good idea to have some, but if you're going to look for portability, because right now, with the world that's coming, the last thing you want to be doing is lugging around a lot of heavy objects if you have to get that to Dodge fast. So,
So carrying 800 pounds of gold is not an option, huh?
not really. Not
Well,
really.
unfortunately, you won't be able to get there without at least a few dozen pounds of lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're going to carry any weight, that's the weight you really want to carry.
You want to carry lead.
Exactly.
And
At least something
not only
that
that,
can ward off intruders.
right.
A
Well,
suitcase of gold's only going to attract attention and bring them in more.
right. And whereas lead, if you have lead in the form of, we're of course talking about ammunition. If you have lead, that can be bartered for other goods. I mean, ammunition becomes extremely valuable at that point.
Actually, right now, if you really want to think of the most barterable item that's worth its weight, probably double its weight in gold, is whiskey.
Oh, really?
Um, I met a guy in Texas. This was a few years back, right after the 2008 collapse. My ex-girlfriend had a house in Texas, and up the street was this guy with this big house, and in the back he was building this metal building. And my ex-girlfriend had a pit bull, really nice dog. And I was walking him, and I was just walking up that street where this big house was. And he came out to his mailbox, and he saw the dog, and he's like, "I love pit bulls. That's a beautiful dog you got there." And he was this massive 100-pound pit bull with a head the size of a basketball. But he was nice. He looked like Petey from the Little Rascals. It was just, so everybody was just like, "Oh my God, this dog is gorgeous." So I asked him, "What is that? What, you built that big building in your back? What's that for? Are you storing like a big motorhome? Are you in the construction? What do you do?" He's like, "Yeah, I put my motorhome back there, and then I store stuff in there." He's like, "You want to see it?" So he invited me back. So we walked back, opens the door, and all on the whole wall, he's got cases of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
12,000 bottles of 40-ounce bottles of Jack Daniels.
Good grief.
He went to the Jack Daniels distillery in Tennessee and bought a tractor trailer load. And I had to ship to Texas. And I'm like, why on earth would you do that? And he had toilet paper and everything, all the necessity, because he's like, boy, goddamn, when the poop hits the fan, they will give their left nut for one of these bottles. I was like, you know what? He's probably right. And then who was it? Was that you that told me about? Somebody told me
about what?
Because you were over in Serbia, right?
Yeah. I used to live there with my ex-wife, with her family. And I would basically sit there all summer like we're doing right now, because there was, it's like when I first went over there, I didn't speak the language, and, not much to do but sit and read books. So I would take a case of books with me every year and read a lot. And by the way,
now, did they ever tell you stories? Because I've heard, maybe it was not from you, but I know I've heard an interview where somebody told me, it may have been when I was working in New York, that the life was so disrupted during the Serbian War that and the best thing to have was booze. If you had a bottle of whiskey, you could get anything you wanted.
Well, see, the U.S. blew up their gas reserves, and so they had to bring fuel in Coke bottles from like surrounding countries and stuff. So everybody was still driving and doing what they did, but you pulled over to the side of the road and filled up from a Pepsi bottle,
That's a slow way to fill up.
Right? And so there was a lot of that going on, but, I don't know. It's...
So you may, for the one who asked, like, about the gold, you may want to consider, if you don't want to spend a lot, because gold's very expensive, you want to think of something modest, but something that could be a very good, effective bartering tool, good as money. It might be a good idea to go buy a couple cases of whiskey. It couldn't hurt.
Whiskey and ammo. Oh, wait, the ammo's already gone. Sorry. So I just
You can
wanted to.
you can get ammo if you got whiskey. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well, you can get
Get
whiskey.
anything.
You can get whiskey if you got ammo.
Well, hey, listen, it's equal benefit of exchange, right?
Right.
Because
Or
in a bad situation, I'm talking about
yeah,
in a situation where everything is just, really gone down the crapper. And so people are like, "Hey, you know what? I just want to like get drunk and not think about it."
yeah,
So it's you got not long term, it's like at least one night, you know?
yeah.
And so they're gonna cut loose and have a couple of cocktails and they'll give you whatever they have to get it.
So I wanted to thank Strict9 for the super chat. He says, "Great show, thank you both." And then also Scott Perry threw up 10 Canadian for super chat. Thank you to you also. People are talking about their Taurus went up in value 50% in 3 months. Probably true.
As for me, I blame Canada, so
Yeah, I blame Canada too. They got
I
those
blame Canada.
flappy heads. But
Uh-huh.
too much South Park. Whiskey for ammo. But anyway, I guess that's a good place to wrap it up. Maybe we'll bring you back for like an update. Are you trying to keep up on all of this so we can do a weekly or monthly update or something?
Oh, absolutely. I'm watching this every day,
All right. Well, we don't
I
have to
mean,
do like a 2 hour one. Well, you were 20 minutes late, so it's technically an hour and 40 minutes. But I'm ribbing you. But we can do like an hour or half hour update or something every few days or once a week or whatever. Kind of just
yeah, people really got to know because they pushed this too far now.
right.
You know,
Yeah, I
they
agree.
really. I think well, today's the 22nd of March, 322. So that whole occultic thing there. And I think what they wanted to do, this is my personal opinion. I think they wanted to bring the market down and starting this week, Wednesday, at least Thursday, start getting a retracement and then get a bump in the market tomorrow, which would signify to the investment community that that's the bottom. And then people could start saying, okay, now we're going to go, and they could start building things back up from here. Um, that didn't happen. This whole thing screwed up their plans, and they were hoping for a retracement on Friday, and the market fell 953 points. So no retracement, no euphoria. I haven't looked at the futures markets over the weekend, but I think tomorrow we're going to see more of the same. It's just going to be down, down. We actually might go down to, we might go to. What are they going to do? They can't stop it. It might go to zero. For all
So,
we know.
so Eric just posted up under unrelated show because he doesn't know how to keep things on topic like most of these off the hook guys can't. He found
Yeah.
a story about the National Transportation Safety Board. I'll just show this pipeline accident brief, natural gas explosion at family residence. So that, Greg, proves his fracking story
A pipeline explosion
for
proves the
natural
fracking.
for natural gas. Yeah. At a
So
family residence. So therefore, non sequitur, non sequitur, non sequitur, fracking, and arsenic. Got it?
oh,
I mean,
okay.
that's a little bit of weed logic there. So
No, the funny thing that people just can't get their minds around is that those gases and those oils, if they're down there, given enough time, they're coming up. And just look at the history of the oil seepage into rivers in Pennsylvania.
yeah. Or how about the La Brea tar pits? Mm.
Ah,
Like just
exactly.
came
What is that?
right up in L.A. Came right up to the surface. They got museums of all the animals that got stuck in it.
Well,
And then
I
they
say I
just
always say, like, you want to see a good example of oil being forced to the surface, look at the oil sands in Canada. You
right.
know,
Yeah. Well,
Wha-
he went to another. Somebody's saying block him. Yeah, I will block him when I find him.
Mhm.
He's just on about weed and freaking fracking. He can't decide if he was talking about natural gas or fracking or and oil or what it was. But you
He's
know,
just trolling you.
yeah. Well, and people don't realize that the ocean floor is gonna fart out more natural gas in an afternoon than all the cars will need in forever, you know?
It does. There's a big methane crack on the East Coast. It runs from like Martha's Vineyard all the way down to Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
And when that thing goes, the seabed will collapse like it did in Indonesia on December 26, 2004. And it's going to cause an East Coast tidal wave that's going to be just devastating.
Yeah. Well,
So
it won't be a mega tsunami caused by a landslide. It'll be a ocean fart. In fact, see, I've got a photo of ocean farts right here, methane rising up on the screen there from our first show. But oh man, that was dang, Greg, that was 4.5 years ago. We did that, December 3rd, 2015. Can you believe that?
was it that long ago? Holy
oh man, we're getting old, dude.
Uh-huh.
You try to expose this stuff for years and people still don't get it. Anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, and we'll follow up with you next week, and you know, give me a shout during the week, see what we can talk about, you know.
And I really appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity, and I really apologize for this technical problems tonight.
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Next time I'll make sure I get on there. I just didn't expect this update, and I don't know why the camera wasn't working, but we'll get it sorted out next time. We'll be okay. So,
well, you know, yeah, we'll figure it out. But I'm just reading some of the comments. Anyway, thanks for the super chats, folks, and the love and support. And maybe we'll try to start doing some more what? What's the term? I just brain farted. Sorry. More current events. That's the term regarding all of this, and what we see, what you see going on, other people from a different perspective other than just like research-based shows, because people seem to want more of this type of thing as well. So. Thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for the audience. Thank you, Del. Thank you, Scott, and everybody who supported the show. Strychnine and others, William, Cruz, and whomever else. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to zoom in there. Whomever else I can't see right now because it's all scrolled up there. But take care, everyone. Have a great night, and see you next time. And I believe Nathan will be on again on Tuesday, going into some more critical thinking and logical fallacies and whatnot. And we'll see you